Daily Solutions Podcast.
Daily Solutions Podcast. Daily Solutions Podcast. Daily Solutions Podcast.
All right, welcome everyone. I am Graham.
And I am Juliet.
That's right, we got a Juliet in the studio again.
Woo!
And for those of you who aren't familiar, she was just on stage at the Float Conference giving a wonderful talk, which will be coming out soon through the Float Conference website. She went on a 3-month float tour with us around the country, and she's responsible for a lot of our blog posts and content going into our free product. So a pretty important person here at Float Tank Solutions. And she's also an avid floater, which means she's going to be helping us go through some questions that are geared more towards the floater-specific side of things and a little less technical. And today's question for us from you is, how do you get yourself ready for a float? I assume yourself, they mean like us. And you'd have advice to give to customers. So what do you do? How do you prepare yourself for a float?
Typically avoid caffeine. I like, if I'm floating later in the day, I like to get in a walk or light exercise. Just get my body to not be so tense while I'm in the float.
Have you ever done heavy exercise before hopping in a float tank?
Yes.
I do, that's like a very unpleasant experience.
I don't like it, no.
Yeah, I went on like a really long run, well, a joggle. So it's juggling while jogging.
Right.
But yeah, then I went to float and I just had to have the door open. Like I was so hot, even after taking a cold shower. That was miserable. Okay, so don't do that. Don't drink caffeine.
Right. I like to, I don't know, I look forward to my floats. And I try not to overhype myself. I think that's a big problem for some of my floats sometimes. But I try to create a very present mindset for when I get into a float so that it's not such a big deal. And maybe that's a difficult thing to tell customers to do, but I also think it's a generally good idea. I don't know. I'm rarely in a space where I don't think that a float is a good idea.
Yeah. I hear you.
But depending on where I'm at in the day, it can really change the trajectory of the float once I'm in the tank. And I guess just being open and prepared for that and letting people know that, I think for a float center is probably a good idea. You know, it's going to take you where it's going to take you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, and I try to treat floats with a little bit of respect, I guess, and be mindful of them. Because there are days where it's like, I can't float because I just shaved my legs or or things like that. So I'll plan like even a couple of days around a float sometimes. So
that's maybe just as a result of being an owner, and like I have this guilt around taking floats that are in prime slots or when other people would take them, you know?
Sure.
So I tend to just sneak my floats in at the last minute. Like largely my preparation for a float is checking the schedule to make sure that like there's at least one tank free before I walk down to float on.
Right.
Which also living 5 minutes from float on is a huge boon in this case.
Right, yeah, I have to go across town in order to get it. So
yeah, I guess like only when I acutely really like need a float, like I've hurt my back or just been feeling really sore or something like that, I'll really plan ahead. Or if I'm trying to do something like 10 days of floating all in a row to just do kind of a reset or something like that, I guess I treat it a little more like this, more of a journey or like a I guess more sacredly or something like that.
Sure.
And often I'm just floating always sounds like a good idea. So it's really just like, oh, is there a tank free that I could just hop in right now because I have some free time?
Right.
And that's how, it's kind of how I hit my once a week sort of habit is just like that.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Yeah, I think that my habits are just very different from my customers, which also sometimes, I guess, it doesn't make it too difficult to still give them good advice on what to do to prepare.
Right.
Do you bring fresh socks?
I try to plan around my outfit so that I don't even have to wear socks.
I wear sandals when I go to
Right,
float. Is
yeah,
like my thing. I really don't like putting back on socks that are like that you've been wearing the entire day. You know. I thought that was a good pro tip.
I really enjoy being able to wear just like something very casual and drapey. I'll wear a lot of dresses on my float days, which is awesome. Just get like a. For people who don't wear dresses, muumuus exist. I recommend it. Or maybe just robes, float robes that you plan to take with you for the rest of the day. Acquire a look is what I'm saying. Yeah, no, and I do. I plan days around this, so it's like I have my float outfit. I wear float shoes and go in, and I have my float time, and then I'll get out and enjoy the rest of the day.
It's good. That's one of the tips we give to customers too, for sure. You know, and it's like half of the tips are things to avoid, kind of like we covered. It's like don't shave your legs the day of.
Right.
You know, don't drink a bunch of caffeine.
Right.
You know, don't get into a big fight with your landlord before heading over to float, ideally. You know, it's kind of like take it easy before and after your float is also the advice. You know, make sure that you don't have anything that's going to put you in this immediately stressful place right before coming in.
Right.
And similarly, try not to have any commitments right afterwards where, you know, regardless of your mind state, you might have to just go and immediately do something. I'd almost say just, I mean, for me, open time is one of the best things after a float. You know, I would rather do that than even plan for, like, oh, I'm going to go watch this concert or do something, even if I might enjoy it, just because once I get out, I don't even know what kind of mental state I'm going to be in. You know, sometimes I want to lounge, sometimes I want to go on a walk. Sometimes the concert would sound like an awesome idea, but yeah, I kind of don't even want to guess ahead, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. And I think that lines up pretty well with customer experiences too, because I think that this is kind of a treat for most people.
Wait, you mean my experiences are universal?
Yes, sure. Let's go with that.
Yeah, any other little tips for customers or tips for float center owners to give their customers to prepare?
No, I don't think so. I think that's it.
Yep. Don't come in just super sloshed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all the kind of basic stuff, you know. Once you've been open for a week, you kind of have your spiel down for all the little things to avoid. I guess the last thing I'll leave you on is actually making sure people pay attention to those, because often you're saying things or your brochure says something like, don't drink caffeine beforehand, and what the person is thinking is, I get to float tomorrow, and they're absolutely not paying attention to your warnings.
Yeah.
So reiterating that, you know, we say it in our brochure, we say it in our email. We do it during call-aheads when we're calling to people, just reminding them of the little things that they should do to prepare. So don't think that just because you say this in one place that people will internalize it and actually prepare accordingly.
Right, yeah. It takes, 7 times in order for something to get stuck in your mind, sort of a thing?
I don't know. I've only heard that like 3 times, so it's hard to remember.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, if you have your own questions or your own answers, I guess, if you want us to come up with questions, just go to floattanksolutions.com/podcast. And we'll do whatever you want. Just write in your demands there and just don't hurt us. All right. Bye, everyone.